Yeah, the charge blade is hard to learn, but not in this video. All it takes is learning each step of how to use the weapon, and then everything else is simple. I was a beginner too, but now I can easily play with it. Although I still make mistakes that get me killed. I'm not perfect, but I can definitely help you know how to use this weapon. By the way, just like the last tutorial that I previously did, there will be Xbox, PlayStation, and PC controls for you to follow. Also, if there's any pro players out there, go ahead and drop any additional tips that I might have missed. First step of using the charge blade. Get phial energy first. To get that energy, you have to attack or block attacks while in sword mode. The best way to gain energy when attacking in sword mode is to do the charge double slash. Holding down circle or B and letting go of the button when your sword glows red can let you do this move. If you press triangle and circle or Y and B after this move, you will do a shield thrust, which helps with doing the charge double slash again, in case you didn't get enough phial energy from the first time. The shield thrust can only be done after any sword attack. You should be able to see that your phial icons are now glowing in color. This means you have phial energy. Those icons change either in yellow, red, or glowing red. If it is glowing red, any sword attacks you do will bounce off the monster. You can also perform the basic 3-hit combo by pressing triangle or Y 3 times, but this combo doesn't do a lot of damage and doesn't quickly give you phial energy compared to the double slash. However, it is there for quickly damaging the monster. The next step is to store that energy into your phials. By holding R2 or RT and pressing circle or B, you can do the charge move. This is a core move for charge blade users, so you'll be doing this a lot. I'd say it's best to get your phial energy to red to reduce the amount of times you perform the charge move. You can also overcharge your phials by storing more energy into the phials that already have energy in them. The purpose of having stored energy is to charge the shield and to use specific attacks that consume phial energy. Let's start with the shield, because you won't be able to do specific moves with a shield that's not charged. The easiest way is to do the charge move, but instead of pressing circle or B, hold down the button. Another way is by doing any sword mode attack first, then press triangle or circle or Y and B, and then hold R2 or RT and press triangle and circle or Y and B. I forget about this way because it's new to Wilds, and I end up doing another way to charge the shield. After doing the shield thrust attack, press triangle and circle or Y and B to do the amped element discharge or the AED. While you see your counter wind up, quickly press R2 or RT to do the elemental round slash instead of committing to do the AED attack. I tend to spam R2 or RT after doing the AED to make sure I'm doing the round slash. Those are the ways of charging up the shield. The charged shield doesn't last forever, so keep an eye on the shield icon. Once the icon starts flashing, you're gonna have to charge it up again. A charged shield also improves guarding against attacks, meaning that you'll take less chip damage when blocking attacks. If you haven't noticed, charging up the shield uses up your phials, so be sure to get your phials back up. If you use overcharged phials, the shield will last longer. Once you've gotten your phials back, you can do this weapon's strongest attack, the super amped elemental discharge, or the SAED. There's two ways you can do this move, and they end up using the same button inputs, which is by pressing triangle and circle or Y and B. You can do this move after doing an AED or after blocking an attack. As you may have noticed, this attack uses up your phials, so depending on how many you have, the more damage and explosions you'll get. Also, you can only do this move with a charged shield, and if you use overcharged phials, you will do more damage. Another thing you can do after an AED, you can press circle or B to do an AED follow-up attack, and then perform the SAED by pressing the same button inputs. This follow-up move is perfect for additional damage and closing a bit of distance, but it will use up one phial regardless of whether this attack lands or not. That's pretty much the basic steps of the charge blade. Get phial energy, charge the shield, get energy again to do the strongest attack, and loop again for recharging the shield and doing the big attack. However, there's other things you can do with the weapon. With a charged shield, you can charge up the sword. By doing the charge move, if you hold down triangle or Y and let go once you see this animation, you do the condensed element slash, which will make the sword icon glow. Just like a charged shield, the charged sword will also disappear after time has passed. Doing this allows you to inflict phial damage while attacking with the sword. It also prevents your weapon from being deflected. It is quite a slow move to do, so make sure you have a good opening. You might have noticed that I haven't talked about the last icon, which is the axe icon. So let's talk about it. The icon will glow when you activate Savage Axe mode, but let me quickly talk about the normal axe mode. From what I've noticed, I've mostly switched to axe mode when I have Savage Axe mode activated. Otherwise, I would only use axe mode to let loose a SAED on a sleeping monster. By the way, pressing triangle and circle or Y and B when you're in axe mode gives you instant access to an AED, rather than doing it the longer way from sword mode. Anyways, there's a few ways to go into axe mode. Pressing R2 or RT when your weapon is sheathed allows you to go straight into axe mode. You can also press the same button input whenever you're airborne, like jumping off your secret, rather than jumping off the secret or moving and pressing triangle or Y to start with sword mode, which you might prefer to do, especially at the start of the fight for gaining energy. While you're in sword mode, holding R2 or RT and pressing triangle or Y will do the morph slash, changing from sword mode to axe mode. After doing the AED, you will also go into axe mode, and after blocking an attack, press triangle or Y. If you ever want to go back to sword mode, you can press R2 or RT to switch back. That's how you switch to axe mode, but to activate Savage Axe mode, there's only 4 ways. One of the ways is after doing a mount finisher, after doing a focus strike by pressing R1 or RB, or after doing a perfect guard or a power clash, press triangle or Y to do the Savage Axe slash. By the way, a quick note, the focus strike can also be used to close your distance between the monster, rather than pressing triangle and circle or Y and B to do the forward slash. Savage Axe mode doesn't need a charged shield or sword to activate. As you can see, Savage Axe mode allows you to do multiple hits within a single attack, and that's easily done by holding any attack button whenever you perform an attack. For example, I can press triangle or Y and hold R2 or RT to deal multiple hits. But if you don't want to complicate your button inputs, you can just hold the same attack button and you will do the same thing. Doing savage mode attacks does make your character more vulnerable when compared to doing normal attacks, because your character stays in the attack animation longer. So be wary of when you want to choose your attacks. Now we should look into the axe mode attacks. Pressing triangle or Y 2 times will loop between overhead and rising slash. I don't think I use these moves a lot, but it's good for attacking anything above your head. These next moves involve using the left stick and pressing triangle or Y to not only attack, but to also move the character. Pointing the left stick forward allows you to do the dash slam. Pointing the stick left or right will do the lateral fade slash, and pointing the stick away from where you're facing will do the back step slash. All good moves for repositioning, and they can be done after an attack or with focus mode on. You might have noticed these are all attacks with the triangle or Y button. But what about the circle or B button? Well, these next attacks consume phials unless you're in Savage Axe mode. Moving your left stick forward or not, and pressing circle or B will do the Russian or element discharge 1 attack. Obviously the Russian one lets your character move a little bit forward. Pressing circle or B again will do the discharge 2 attack. Pressing the same button one more time will let you do an AED, and from there you can choose moves I already mentioned beforehand for whatever situation you find yourself in. For example, you can do an SAED, charge your shield, do the AED follow-up attack, or just continue with the axe mode attacks. That's all of your axe mode attacks. A bit more on top of the basic steps of using the weapon, especially if you want to incorporate Savage Axe mode attacks. However, this is where we get into advanced territory. Not even the game tells you about it. If you haven't noticed, there are some moves you can do to make your shield glow white. This is a guard point, which is basically a move or animation that lets you block an attack. Guard point can help with saving your life depending on when you use it. There's a lot of ways of doing them, so I'll start from the easiest to the hardest. The one and only easiest is the morph to axe mode by holding R2 or RT and pressing triangle or Y. Next is medium tiered. Morph to sword mode by pressing R2 or RT while in axe mode. Charging up the shield by holding circle or B after doing the charge move. The fade slash, which is done by moving the stick in any direction and pressing circle or B, either after any sword attack or by using focus mode. By the way, you can't do a fade slash after a fade slash. Doing any round slash attack, so for example after pressing triangle or Y 3 times, and the hard tiered guard point. The axe mode opening attack, which is done when your weapon is sheathed and pressing R2 or RT, and charging the shield via the shield thrust way, which is done by pressing R2, triangle and circle, or RT, Y and B after the shield thrust. The harder it is, the less likely you use those guard points, but this depends on how good you are at timing your attacks with the monster's attack. A guard point can also trigger a perfect guard, just like holding R2 or RT on time with a monster's attack. So I'd recommend using guard point as much as you can, especially if you use the easiest guard point to block attacks. Okay, so you learned all of your attacks, but how can we string combos out of them? Well, you've already seen a few of them. A common combo you'll be doing is the charge double slash and shield thrust loop to quickly get phial energy. If you have phial stored and the shield is charged, you can do the SAED, which can be easily done if you spam triangle and circle or Y and B 4 times. The same thing can be done straight after doing a charge, but instead of 4 times, you press those same button inputs 3 times. If you're on Savage Axe mode, you can just spam circle or B for an infinite axe mode combo loop. Just keep in mind, if you're in Savage Axe mode, half a phial will be used when you do the AED, and the follow-up uses the rest of the phial. So keep your eyes peeled on how much phial energy you have remaining. Honestly, it's not that hard to learn the charge blade, because once you understand phial management and learning your attacks, the rest is simple. I'd say the only hard thing is making use of the guard points efficiently because of the many ways you can do them, and it relies on monster knowledge. Also, try to make full use of the guard point, more specifically the morph to axe mode guard point. You might have noticed that doing a guard point can sometimes trigger a perfect guard, and when you do perfect guards, your character will get less knockback. This allows your character to move quicker rather than recovering from an attack. Another tip worth mentioning, if you have the load shell skill maxed out and you do the charge move when your phial gauge is yellow, you instantly max out the stored energy, which means if the gauge is red, you instantly get overcharged phials. Guys, this channel is dying, but you can help out for just $1 a month, either by being a channel member or by going to my Patreon. Your name will appear in my video, but if you pay for $5 a month, you will get early access to my latest video. This is to thank you for your kind support, because otherwise the channel will disappear. So please consider taking a look, and hopefully I'll see you later.